Do you wake up every day pumped to work on your business? You sit down at your computer, you have a list a mile long of things to do for your business, but you have no idea if they are actually moving the needle forward or if they're just helping you feel like you got quote unquote something accomplished today. When I first started my business, I remember thinking multiple times, well, now what? So I would go to a Facebook page, ask my questions, or I would search Google only to get 20 different answers. Being who I am, I would try to do them all. But they were not moving my business forward. They were just stressing me out. I have decided to create a membership for other pro organizers that can be like a real estate office. We all have our own business, but we can meet at the office for support, guidance, and inspiration. So the monthly membership will start in January 2023, and more to come about that later. But for now, we are doing bi-weekly coaching calls for everyone to work on their business together. December 28th, we will meet on Zoom for 1 hour, so come prepared to ask those questions and work on your business. This program is free until 2023, and then we will explain the membership in more detail. Set your calendars, then go to proorganizerscoach.com/support or click on the Support Equals Success tab at proorganizerscoach.com to fill out the quick form. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at proorganizerscoach@gmail.com. Now let's get on with today's episode. You are listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. I'm Samantha Brown, a professional organizer and business coach. In this podcast, you will learn how to start and scale the organizing business of your dreams. So let's jump in. Welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. On today's episode, I have Maria Butler from Raleigh, North Carolina. She has a professional organizing business called Clearly Organized. Maria has been dealing with a little bit of like fear as an entrepreneur and just different things that I know for me have come up a lot. And when we all experience those things, we can learn from one another. She's been in business about 2 years. So we thought in today's episode that we would coach a little bit around that topic or whatever topic she's dealing with currently, because I know it's hard to understand sometimes how coaching can help you as an entrepreneur. And then also that way I could help Maria with what she has been dealing with. And so she's been gracious enough to do this today, to be honest and open about some of the stuff she's been dealing with, knowing that it would help you, the listener. And so I am so grateful to you, Maria. I'm so thankful for you being willing to do this on a podcast.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a little scary. This is part of my fear, is kind of putting myself out there. It feels like a big risk to do that, but this is a step in me kind of stepping out and saying, okay, I'm going to do what's best for the business and, just kind of take control of things and not stop doing things because I'm afraid of what it'll look like.
Yes. And then also for us as organizers, normally we also get that perfectionism thing that we're like, oh, it also has to be perfect if we put it out. It is scary, but I promise you, like, it's going to be amazing. You are going to help so many women just by sharing what you're going through currently.
I hope so.
So first, let's start off with you just telling us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and just what's kind of happened for you so far.
Like I said, I've been in business about 2 years, actually 2 years this month. It really started on a whim, this business. I'll be honest, my children are a little bit older. I was a elementary school teacher for more than 10 years and stayed home with my 2 boys. They're a little bit older now. One's in college, one's in high school. Didn't need me to be home all the time. They didn't need me to be there to shuttle them everywhere anymore. So I decided it was time that, I did something I wanted to do. So I actually toyed around with several different businesses and really kept just landing back on organizing. It's something that I've always done, something that comes very naturally to me, something I enjoy doing for other people. And it was a great way to kind of get out and help people in a different capacity. I missed that aspect of teaching. I missed being able to help. So this was a great way for me to do that. So, like all things, I talked to my husband about it and I was like, I'm thinking about doing this. And He's like, I think it's a great idea. Do it. I said, well, I don't know. And so we were looking at, websites and kind of the costs of starting a business. And so he had everything pulled up for me. And he said, I think you should do it. Hit click on the button and bought my website.
That's exactly what happened with my husband. I had been giving all these different ideas of different businesses I was going to start. Like, I was going to like Mary Kay type stuff, but it was a different company. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I kept coming up with all these ideas, and every one of them, he was like, Samantha, you're crazy. Like, you're not going to make money. We're going to lose money. Like, that is not a good idea. And I kept telling him, I was like, one of these days, I'm going to have a great idea that is going to make us some good money, and I'm going to be able to help people. I just knew it. I just didn't know what it was. And so when I came across organizing and I told him, what shocked me was the same thing your husband did. He immediately was like, I think that's a great idea. Let's do it. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What did you just
say? Exactly. Hello? I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting that response.
Right. I thought I was going to have to argue with you some more. But no, it's been a fantastic thing. And I'm sure the same for you, especially having a husband that is on board with the thought or business or idea.
It really has. He has been my biggest cheerleader, just super supportive. Anything, he actually set my original website up for me. Neither one of us had a clue what we were doing, but he dug into it and figured it out and got a good, basic website set up for me. And it really has been a great idea. It has been one of the best choices I have made.
And so now you're about 2 years in, and how are things going with like clients and that side of it, like the actual organizing side of the business?
We have been very blessed. We have some amazing clients. And I say we because I actually have a lady that works with me. It's someone that I knew before I started the business. And she was kind of a fluke as well. She, kind of offhand mentioned to me one day, she said, hey, if you ever, need some help, I like organizing. I'd be happy to help you out, every once in a while if you need some. I said, okay, sure. Thinking, oh, I'm probably never going to be that busy. I'm never going to need help.
Mm-hmm.
We have a job scheduled next week. There will be 5 of us working this job. So we are trying out a new person next week. I have 3 ladies that work with me on an as needed basis. And, it's worked out really well. It's been nice. They are ladies that I know. Because as we all know, when you go into someone's home, you need to really be able to trust the people that are with you. They are excellent organizers, but they're also excellent humans.
So the client side is going extra fantastic. So what about the like mental side? And I assume that this is still your business and then you are contracting them out, right?
Correct. It is my business. They are contractors for me, which has worked out really well. A nice situation for them, a nice situation for me. It makes bookkeeping easy. The part that is scary for me right now is I'm starting to get some exposure. I'm starting to grow. And with that, I feel like I need to kind of put myself out there more. We've been invited to do home shows. I was a speaker at a home show. I've been invited to come back. I actually did an appearance on the local TV news. All of these things frighten me. I'll be honest. It is extremely scary to me. I am not that person. I do not want to be in front of a camera. I do not want to have my picture taken. I love working one-on-one with clients, that intimate relationship that you get, that one-on-one connection. That's what I miss about teaching, is that relationship that I have with those kids. We've managed to do that with our clients. We have that relationship with our clients. I love that aspect of it. I do not love the having to get out in front of lots of people and tell about myself and tell about my business. That makes me very uncomfortable. So it has been a journey. Speaking at this local home show was very frightening, but I pushed myself to do it because I felt like that was a great way to reach a new audience, to kind of expand this business. The girl that's been with me since the beginning, I told her I'm taking you on a ride and it's going to be interesting. And it has been. And it has been. She will attest to that. It has been very, very interesting. But I would love to get to the point where we are working steadily and I'm able to guarantee her hours. And, we're still not quite there. We are busy, but we still have lulls And I would like it to be where she's able to go out and do more independently because she is capable and she is ready. And I would love to be able to send her out with her own team to do things.
What do you think it is for you when someone asks you, to do the TV appearance or to come on the podcast or to do whatever it is that thing is that you don't want to do? What is it about that is so scary?
I think it's just not wanting to be embarrassed, not wanting to say something that somebody's going to go, oh my gosh, she has no clue what she's talking about. I think it goes back some to self-confidence. I feel like I know what I'm talking about when I'm with clients. I feel very comfortable explaining our process, all these things. But when you get in front of a large audience and you lose that intimate connection, I think it's easier for people to kind of nitpick and criticize. And let's face it, none of us want to be criticized. None of us want to be nitpicked. And it's just not my personality to be out in front of everybody. I prefer to be kind of, behind the scenes doing things. I've never been one to want to be center stage.
So is it kind of more of like the inner critic and maybe a little like imposter syndrome about not about being an organizer, but maybe a little imposter syndrome about being a TV person or like being a media person kind of, I guess, or being out there on social media? Is that maybe where the inner critic is coming in saying you're not good enough or that other people won't think you're good enough, or kind of where is that landing?
I think you hit it exactly. I feel very confident in my skills as an organizer, not so confident in my skills as a business owner, maybe, representing, making sure that I'm doing, all the social media correctly, all the appearances correctly, that kind of thing, because that's not, when you open a business, you think about, okay, what am I good at doing? Whether you're baking or organizing or whatever. But then you also have to have this whole other skill set related to just the running of your business, the accounting, the advertising, the marketing, all of that, which is not a skill set I necessarily possess. I've been really lucky. I've got some people who have kind of tried to give me some hints and nudges and pushes along the way and have helped. And I've kind of gone through and studied other people's social media and tried to think, okay, how can I make this my own? But yeah, it is. It is a lot of that imposter syndrome. It's, when I was teaching, I actually have a master's degree in education. So, I had all the tools I needed to be a great teacher, to do well in that classroom. Running a business, I don't know that you could ever have all the tools you need.
Right. Yeah. I was actually just speaking with a lady that is going to be in the episode right before yours. We were talking about how as a business owner, it's like being a parent. Like there's not really a guidebook. You don't have children because you're then ready. Like, oh, you're ready to have a child, so now you can have one. That is not how that happens. Like you have the child and then you find out how unprepared you are. And then you learn as you go by failing. Like what doesn't work? Okay, so this other thing must work.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that's how I feel like it is when you start a business.
Yes.
Is, you're good at that specialty, that thing that you're, focusing your business on. But then there's all this other stuff that comes with it. And, when you're starting a new business, yes, I realize there are professionals that do marketing. There are professionals that will do your social media, those types of things. But when you're first starting a business, you can't afford to do that.
Right.
Or you're choosing to not afford to do that. There are 100 different ways that you could spend, what your business is earning. And so I do think that's part of it. And just goes back to, that's just not, I think we all have kind of, basic personalities, and putting myself out there doing this podcast is part of my overcoming this fear of putting myself out there, repeating that mantra in my head. I can do this. Mm-hmm. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Absolutely.
What's the worst that's going to happen? I might get a new client. I might find a client who loves what we're doing and tells all their friends about us. That's kind of what I'm doing. And, I told you about the home show that we did. And actually through that home show, we did get new clients. And through that home show, I found a potential young lady who would like to work with us. So there was direct benefit to my overcoming that fear and doing it. And I'll be really honest, we spoke twice during this home show. First time I was terrified. The second time I just kind of decided, you know what, that wasn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And just had a really good time with the second time. And it went much faster. It went much smoother. I was able to be more myself. And so I felt like it went really well the second time. So now I'm just not quite as afraid to do this home show again. They've invited me back. And so it's not quite as scary. I'm sure I'll still have nerves beforehand, but it's been kind of fun kind of conquering some of these fears.
Yeah. Yeah. And so whenever the inner critic or the fear comes up, what is it saying? Is there a reoccurring theme that the inner critic or the fear kind of keeps saying to you?
Just the fear of people looking and saying, oh my gosh, she really has no clue what she's talking about. Questioning, who am I to be up there doing this? And that's where I have to keep reminding myself, hey, you do know what you're doing. You have experience doing this. You have a list of clients now who are living a more peaceful, more organized life because we went in and helped them.
Yes.
So that's what I keep trying to repeat to myself. And that, it's okay if somebody doesn't think what we did was great. That's okay. We're not for everyone and everyone's not for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want the clients that aren't for you.
Yes. I in the past 2 years, we have learned that. We've been on consults with clients and, at first, you just don't get every job. I don't care how perfect, how wonderful you are. You just don't get every job.
Right.
And at first it really bothered me. And then I started to see, okay, the ones we didn't get were probably good because they probably were ones that we didn't gel quite as well with the person.
Mm-hmm.
And probably ones that they may not have been happy with what we've decided to do.
Yeah.
I feel like this is such a personal business. It's so intimate. You're going into their closets, into their dressers, spaces that you don't normally let anyone else into, and you're setting them up. You have to gel with that person. You have to find a connection with them, or it's not going to be as good a process, I don't think. That's my opinion. But I think it's really important when you're working with someone like that. We've got to the point with clients that, after you pull everything out of their dresser, they start telling you everything.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you everything. So, I think it's important that you do have that rapport and you have that connection with them. I think it makes for a much better experience for everyone involved, but it also makes for a much better end product for that client.
Yeah. And it also makes for a better business for you long term because the people that are telling their people are actually your people.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you don't want to do a good job at a job that you hated. I mean, you do for your business, but better to have not even gotten that job compared to, oh, we got it. We did fantastic. And now they're telling all of their like-minded friends. And now we have 5 of those jobs that we are not looking forward to.
Exactly. So it is hard when you don't get those jobs, especially starting out. It is hard and it does hurt your feelings. But I do think sometimes you kind of have to step back and take a look at, okay, maybe this was for the good. The reality is, I don't care how fabulous you are, how wonderful your reviews are, you're just not going to get every job. That's just life.
Yeah. Maybe back in the beginning, maybe not so much now, but what is it that you were making what happened in the business mean about you?
It really, because it's such a personal business, because I started it, it's my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And the personality that I am, I pour my heart and soul into something. If I'm not willing to give 110%, then I usually just won't do it. So it was very personal to me. If I met with a client and they decided to go another way, or they weren't sure, or they had questions, I did take it very, very personally. I took it as if I had done something wrong. And, I just kind of had to separate. I've gotten much better. When I first started, if somebody texted or sent a message or sent an email and it was 10 o'clock at night, I answered it immediately. I stopped whatever I was doing. And that was because I wanted to be there for those people. And I have found that I can still be there for those people, but for me to be there for those people and to be in a good frame of mind and not be exhausted, I have to turn things off at a certain time. This whole business has been a huge growth for me professionally, but also personally. Just kind of learning to put in some boundaries and learning to not take things personally.
Yeah.
Learning that, it's just everybody's not going to gel. Everybody's not going to love what you're doing.
Yeah. And being aware, like everything starts with awareness. And one thing that actually in the episode that's going to release before yours, I asked the listener, I told them they had 2 pieces of homework for the week that comes out. And one was to take a sheet of paper and draw a line straight down the middle. And on the left side, write the nouns, like the people, places, and things that give you energy. And on the other side of the line, the people, places, and things that take your energy or drain you.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And just doing that exercise, because we are one with our business, especially in the beginning. And it's very hard if you're not aware of what gives you energy and what takes your energy. You're going to say yes to everything. And then you yourself or your family will end up taking the brunt of your exhaustion and frustration and all of the things that will come because you're exhausted.
Yes, I totally agree. Definitely have learned that through this process. Absolutely have learned that through this process. And I've learned, the importance of scheduling some time off, scheduling downtime. And I'm right now working through learning how to schedule time to work on the back end of the business.
Yes.
Instead of that always being at night or always being on a weekend, letting go a little bit and having a day a week that I work on social media, that I work on the books, that I work on, running errands for the business, doing returns or that type of thing. Instead of it taking up every spare minute that I'm not with a client, that's something I've worked on is letting go a little bit, having to always be scheduled and scheduling that time during the day when I should be doing that. And I shouldn't be doing it at night, while I'm supposed to be with my family.
Absolutely. I mean, we start these businesses because we want more time at home. Then we let them take over our life and we end up with even less time at home than we had before we started the business. And then the other thing that in the previous episode, the other piece of homework, which I think is super relevant also, was to look at your calendar for the next week and see if there was anything that you previously had said yes to that you could go back and say no to for your own well-being.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so hard.
Yes.
It's so hard because I know now that I am gaining some traction, that I am starting to be known. I'm getting lots of invitations to things, lots of networking, lots of groups, lots of social media groups. At first I joined every social media group I could. I went to every meeting I was invited to, and I figured out that's not for me. I need to pare it down. I need to focus on the ones that I feel like are in line with what I want to accomplish. And there's nothing wrong with those groups. And I actually met some really great people. But, for example, I was invited to come to a networking group and loved it, loved the people, but there was an attendance requirement and it was on a Tuesday morning. Well, that's a big work day for us.
Yeah.
Most Tuesdays we're working, and I just couldn't see sacrificing clients every single Tuesday for this networking group. So I'm learning to be selective in what I participate in. I'm learning to, especially social media groups. There are lots of social media groups now focused on business women and networking and that type of thing. You could literally spend every day, all day long on Facebook in these groups, commenting and posting and being active and trying to make connections. And while I feel like that's all very, very important, it's not the most important work.
I'm laughing because I tried that. I tried to go that route of like, okay, exactly what you're saying. Like I should be in all the groups. I should be, posting on other people's stuff. Like I can't expect people to post on my stuff if I'm not going to post on their stuff. And I want to treat others like I want to be treated. And so I need to be on everyone's and just say yes to everything. Mm-hmm. And it took me, no joke, I think it was about 2 weeks before finally my husband called me out and was like, "What has changed with you recently?" He's like, "I don't know what it is, but you are way more stressed than you ever have been. I can see it in you. Like, you're just not the same person you were just a few weeks ago. Like, has something changed?" But I was
Oh,
spending
yeah.
my spare time trying to be all the things for all the people on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you just
Yeah.
can't do it. Like, you can't for your own well being.
I'm all for sharing. With my business page, I share businesses around me that are local. If I go somewhere and I have great service, or if I have a great meal, or, go to the local farm stand and buy stuff, I will share that. I mean, I think that's important. I think, whatever business you're doing, being a part of the community is very important. And I think it's really great to share other people's businesses. I've seen a lot of growth from that. And, people will share your things. If you share theirs, a lot of times they will. And that's not the only reason to do it, but it does build that sense of community, and people start to recognize you when they see that you've shared. And who doesn't love for their business to be shared?
There's no
Have a
more pressure behind it. Now it's
right.
as you choose, where I'm sure before with the pressure, you were also in a place where you felt the need to say yes to everything.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And like you were saying, where even the phone call at 10 p.m. or the whatever, it's learning that we are allowed to say no, or we are allowed to maybe not even say yes or no and say, "Well, can you give me a day or so to think about that? I'll get back with you tomorrow." Like, we don't
Yeah,
even think about those things, like that it's okay to say that.
I agree. It's very hard in the beginning, because I think in the beginning, you want to make sure you're doing every single possible thing you can to get your business off the ground,
Mm-hmm.
to make your business successful, to find those clients, to get your name out. It's a lot of pressure when you start a business to
Yes.
do all the things. So I do think with that time, you kind of learn, okay, these are the avenues that are actually helpful for my business.
Mm-hmm.
These are the ways that I can help other people. And then this other stuff is just fluff that I probably just shouldn't worry about.
Yeah, and
So,
learning my time is valuable and how I choose to spend it is okay. Like, it's okay if I choose to go get my nails done because I feel better when my nails are done. Before, in the beginning, I wouldn't even go get my nails done, or I wouldn't even take that time to myself. And it it almost burnt me out, to be honest. Like, I got to a point where there was kind of a fork in the road, and it was either learn to take care of yourself and to say no to some stuff for your own well-being and your family's well-being, or you're going to lose all of this because you're so stressed and burnt out that you're no good to anyone like this. In this business, it's exactly what we've been saying up until now. If you aren't any good emotionally, physically, anything, not just for your family, but you're also not going to be any good for your clients.
exactly.
And learning that the more we take care of ourselves and the healthier place we are in on the inside, and then in, physically in our body and emotionally.
You're correct. Because we work so closely with clients, we get very personal with them, and we've heard, their stories of loss. We've heard their stories of joy. We've cried with clients, and it is very emotionally draining, especially if you get into working with clients that are hoarders. We've had a few of those. We tend to fall in love with our clients, for better or for worse, we do. We did one older gentleman who was a hoarder, or his wife was a hoarder. We adored him and absolutely loved our time with him. But when we got done with that job, I had to take a week. I just a week where I just didn't do anything for this business.
Yeah.
I was just emotionally drained, physically drained. It was a lot. And it broke our hearts to see someone living in that situation, knowing that that's not what that person wanted. No one wants to live like that. We all become victims of our situations and things that happen to us. And, this gentleman didn't want to live like that. It was heartbreaking, and I had no choice. I had to take some time.
Yeah. And, the way that you were saying, like, you help others not feel the guilt is, you may just have to give yourself that same pep talk.
I do. It's what is that thing? Do as I say and not as I do.
Yep.
Yeah. That's me.
Yeah.
And I
it's
am.
all of
And
us.
it is. It really is. And so that's what I've been trying to do with this whole, kind of stepping out of my comfort zone. It started a little over a year ago. I was invited by a local realtor to do a Facebook Live with her. And I'd never done a Facebook Live. I was absolutely mortified. And she and I have really kind of connected, and a lady that works with them, and they're like my little cheerleaders. Anytime I do something like this, they know that it's out of my comfort. And so they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. That's so wonderful." So I think that's another thing when you're scared is you need to find your cheer squad. Find
Yes.
those one or two people who you can confide in and say, "Okay, I'm terrified," that will kind of cheer you on. And I think in turn, you need to find people that you can cheer on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually brings up, I'm in the process of trying to figure out how I could either do like a monthly subscription type thing or something that where the women listening can choose to hop on a Zoom call together in like small settings to work on our business together for an hour and ask questions or support one another, or because community is everything. And when you're running a
Yeah.
business, especially starting out as a professional organizer, you are all by yourself.
You are. You really are.
But the second
You really are.
that you get people around you or others and you start having a conversation, which is why I started this podcast in the first place and wanted to start this community, is because I know the power of we're doing it alone, but if we could just realize everyone else is too, then we would be unstoppable because we could share stories and encourage one another. And then that imposter syndrome and that inner critic, that voice would no longer be allowed to overwhelm our own thoughts.
Within my own community, I've been working with a couple people, and we're hoping to get something like that started. Not necessarily professional organizers, but just kind of business women together and supporting each other, and sharing what we've learned. And one of the best contacts I've ever made, she was a client, is how I met her to start with, and she's become a friend, and she owns her own business as well. And we will just meet periodically and just kind of be like, "Oh my gosh, what about this? What about that?" And she's had great suggestions for me. We kind of go back and forth, and it's really great. There's not that competitiveness there. It's, we're building each other up. And I think if we could establish that within the professional organizing community, within women in business, that, we would all do better. There's plenty of work. I mean, I'm in the Raleigh area. There are, I don't even know how many professional organizers there are here. I'm sure there's plenty of work for all of us.
Absolutely.
There's plenty of work for everyone. Agreed. I think it's great. I think we can use, the whole internet, Zoom, Facebook. It can be used for really great things.
Yes.
It's just how we decide to use it.
Absolutely. And I will say I am so proud of you for everything and for pushing through your fear. And because when you sent me that message and you said, hey, I'm having some fear about this, but I'm going to push through anyways, I was like, I didn't even know you at that point, really, but I was like, yes, you go, girl. Like, because it reminded me like, oh yeah. So when I have that fear, just because I feel it doesn't mean I have to like give into it. It actually means, no, I can choose to push through it, and I'm going to be better for pushing through it.
Fear is something that stops us it really shouldn't. And I should know that. And I shouldn't have let fear stop me as long as it did, because I've never lost anything by just stepping out and trying something new. I've never lost anything. No one's died. No one's gotten hurt. And that's kind of how I calm that fear is I say, okay, what's the worst that's going to happen from this?
Yeah,
You
because
know?
we're all humans walking this journey, trying to do the best we can with what we have in the moment, with our choices, with what we're given. And it's the same thing when you were a kid. Like, it's just when we were kids, we were so much more aware, it seemed like, of everything, or at least for me. And then now that I'm an adult, I'm still aware, but I'm learning how to rein that awareness of what others think more into how does this align with who I am and who I want to become.
Agreed. And I think it's a process. And I think at different ages, you evolve through that process differently. I think the older I get, the more I realize that what matters to me is that I'm being true to myself, that I am being genuine, and that when I go to bed at night, I can put my head on the pillow and I'm able to sleep. That matters to me. So I think that's helped a lot with the fear, is just kind of coming to that realization that, hey, you know what? If somebody doesn't like it, or somebody thinks I was too goofy or too silly, or, whatever, that's okay. I saw a quote somewhere that said, you're not entitled to know the opinions of others about you.
Oh, that's good.
And I thought that's really good. It's none of your business what someone else thinks of you.
Yeah, and it's really not any of our business because it has nothing to do with us and everything to do with them. So I had a podcast before this that, come to find out for myself, was actually my own emotional journey that I had to go through to be able to even release this podcast for others. And so I got through 13 episodes. It was called Her Healed Heart. And I was talking to Christian wives that were having issues in their marriage. And it was very emotional for me. And it was what I had to walk through. And I remember there was this one time that in a Facebook group that I was in with other entrepreneurs, what they thought about this teaching that I was going to do. And I was asking if it's something that maybe they would pay for, because I was trying to figure out like a course, how we go through all the things of what we can do. And this one woman came on there, and her comment, of course, I didn't end up hearing or remembering any of the others, but she said, oh, emotional, spiritual, and physical clutter. She said, I can get that at my church for free. I would never pay for anything like that from you.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, and this was supposed to be like, it was a Christian spiritual, like, and obviously if she goes to church, she loves God. And I'm like, really? Like, and then all I could think was, oh yeah, because your church teaches you to declutter.
People are really rude sometimes.
Yes.
And I'm convinced that she would have never, if you had been sitting in a face-to-face meeting with a group of people, she'd have never said that to your face.
Oh, no, never. And if she would have even taken a moment to realize what I was actually saying, like, so that's why I was saying I have so learned that had everything to do with herself. It had nothing to do with me. But in that moment, that was something I had to walk through as a podcast owner and person to get to where I am now. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, I'm super thankful because, like you said, I've learned from that. My skin has gotten thicker.
It's hard though. It's really hard to put yourself out there. It's really hard because, I'm sure you feel the same way. This business is very personal to me. It's me.
Yes.
The things I post on my social media, the, pictures I take, it's me. It's my work. It's the lady that works with me. It's her work. And, she in a sense belongs to me. And so it is kind of, my baby that I'm just kind of putting out there for the world to look at. And, if you dwell on that too much, it gets to be very frightening.
Like you said, they forget that it's a person that actually had to push through the fear, that had to expose themselves to others to even be in front of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where my fear comes in, is it's back to those unnamed people out there that are critiquing and criticizing and poking fun of. I have no fear of putting myself out there one-on-one with someone.
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm just myself. I'm goofy, I'm silly, whatever. I have no problem doing that. It's those unnamed people that you don't have that connection with. That's what's scary to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is to all of us, honestly, like anytime we're building anything online, because as much as we want them to remember that we are a person, it's easy to almost see someone else when they post, right? Like we don't see who they actually are. We see their perfect side that they're putting on social media. And so then if we go down the rabbit hole of like looking up, well, who are they? Why did they say this? What, all of a sudden we're like, oh, well, she's this like gorgeous blonde 6 foot with, a sexy husband and 2 beautiful kids and, or whatever, like
right.
All of a sudden it feels like high school all over again, or worse, even middle school.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
Well, and I think we all tend to put our best self out on social media.
Yes.
So it does kind of set up this false reality. I'm not going to put a picture of myself up there that I look terrible. Right. I mean, I'm just not. And I'm not going to, tell you all the horrible things that my kids did or, why I might be upset with my husband that week. And so if you look at my social media, I'm just as guilty as anybody. I put up the birthdays and the little celebrations and things like that. But, nobody wants to put up the flaws, so to speak. So,
yeah. And remembering that, like, what if someone does say something to you? That's okay, because as much as she is showing the perfect side of her life, she has just as much drama going on behind the scene as we do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm so, so, so grateful for you for sharing the fear and sharing your thoughts and what you are going through in this present moment that, even 2 years in, yeah, you've got the business side and the clientele and everything down, but now all of the mind drama and the way you feel on the inside sometimes is starting to show itself. But that's okay, because once we work through those issues, we don't have to deal with that again, or we are better for it, or others around us are better for us working through our stuff. And so I think just remembering that like, even if we deal with the fear, it's just for a moment. We will get through this and we're going to be better for it.
I agree. I totally agree. And you've not lost anything by trying.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It was actually really fun.
You have been listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Go to the show notes to find all of the links mentioned in this episode and hit that subscribe and automatic download button so you don't miss a single thing. Thanks for listening.